They summoned her to translate ancient scrolls. They didn't tell her she was already written in them. In a kingdom buried under stone and drenched in crimson light, a mortal woman becomes the center of a war older than history itself. This is the tale of the bride of the Crimson King, and the prophecy that will crown her or consume her. Alright, before we start, where in the world are you watching this from? Let's light up the comments. Evelyn Hart believed her life would always be quiet libraries, dusty books, forgotten languages, and the kind of peace only scholars knew. She had spent years mastering dead dialects that no one else cared to read. It made her feel safe, invisible, and comfortably unimportant. But everything changed the night the strangers arrived. It began with a single knock on her apartment door. Firm. Perfectly timed. Almost ceremonial. Evelyn paused, her hand hovering above a cup of tea gone cold. Nobody visited her this late. When she opened the door, two figures in black cloaks stood there. Their faces were hidden behind metal masks shaped like angular, expressionless faces, half bird, half human. Crimson stones were embedded in their foreheads, pulsing faintly like heartbeats. Evelyn Hart, the taller one, said. Not a question. A declaration. Her pulse jumped. Yes. Who are you? You are summoned, the figure said. Your skills are required below. Below what? Below everything. Before she could slam the door or run, the shorter figure lifted a hand, not in threat, but in a gesture of offering. A rolled parchment rested on his palm, sealed with dark red wax. The wax shimmered unnaturally, as if alive. Evelyn swallowed hard. I don't do field work. You must have the wrong person. We do not the tall one said. Her instincts screamed to shut the door, call someone, do anything. But something in the parchment called to her, an old, magnetic pull she did not understand. Just tell me what this is about, she insisted, but her voice trembled. You will see. The shorter one stepped forward, moving with impossible silence. Before Evelyn realized what was happening, he touched the red stone on his forehead. The hallway lights flickered. Her vision blurred. And the world tilted, as if the ground had opened beneath her. She tried to scream, but her voice vanished in the sudden gust of air. The floor dissolved into blackness. Cold wind tore through her clothes. She felt herself falling fast, and then faster still. Then, without warning, everything stopped. She landed lightly, almost gently, on solid stone. Evelyn gasped and stumbled backward. She was no longer in her apartment. She wasn't even on the surface of the earth. She stood in a massive underground cavern lit by blood-red crystals jutting from the ceiling and walls. They glowed with a steady pulse, as if breathing. Their light cast a soft red hue across the cavern, like a constant sunset frozen in time. The masked emissaries knelt. We bring the historian, the tall one announced. Evelyn spun around, searching for any sign of escape. Where am I? Take me back right now. I did not agree to this. No one answered. Instead, a cold wind blew across the cavern as a tall figure emerged from the shadows. He walked slowly, with deliberate, regal movements. His cloak flowed like liquid night behind him. Evelyn felt the air drop several degrees. The figure stopped a few feet away, and for the first time she saw his face, pale skin with a faint silver sheen, sharp cheekbones, dark hair pulled back loosely, and eyes so vibrantly crimson they reflected every glimmer of crystal light. He was beautiful in a distant, dangerous way. The kind of beauty ancient statues tried to copy but could never capture. The emissaries bowed deeply. Crimson King, they said in unison. So this was him, the ruler of this underground kingdom. The immortal monarch whose name appeared only in whispered myth. The man regarded Evelyn with a stillness that made her skin crawl. You brought her unharmed, he said calmly, his voice low and smooth, but carrying an authority that filled the cavern. Good. His eyes shifted to Evelyn. She felt exposed, as if he were reading her thoughts simply by looking at her. Evelyn forced her voice to stay steady. You can't just drag me here. I demand answers. You were summoned for translation, he replied. Nothing more. I don't care, she snapped, fear turning into sharp anger. I want to go home. You cannot, he said simply. Not yet. His tone was not cruel. Not threatening. Just absolute. As if the concept of being refused did not exist in his world. Evelyn stepped back. Why me? Lucian Vale, the Crimson King, took one slow step toward her. Because you are the only mortal alive who can read what must be read. Her heart pounded. And what is that? He lifted a hand. A scroll appeared, carried forward by an unseen force. The parchment was old, far too old, and wrapped in symbols that shifted like liquid ink. The forbidden scrolls of Ithrin, he said. And within them, a prophecy that has already begun. Evelyn shook her head. Prophecies aren't real. Lucian's eyes flickered with something unreadable. They are here. Something in his voice made her body go cold. Something in the crystals around them pulsed in response. She didn't know it yet, but the crystals recognized her. And the prophecy had already stirred awake the moment she arrived. The Scarlet Dominion, this was what the underground kingdom called itself. A place built in ancient times, hidden from humans, carved from caverns that stretched farther than Evelyn could imagine. Lucian walked ahead with soundless steps, leading her into a quieter chamber. It was enormous, with long stone tables, high shelves carved straight into the cave walls, and thousands of scrolls stored in metal containers. The walls glowed with softer, smaller crystals, giving the room a warm red ambience. It would have been beautiful if it weren't so unnerving. Two vampire scholars bowed when Lucian entered. Their eyes, though less vibrant than his, still glimmered in shades of crimson. "Leave us," he ordered. The scholars disappeared instantly, as if they had dissolved into the shadows. Evelyn clenched her fists. "I don't like this place." "That is expected," Lucian replied. "Mortals rarely do." He gestured toward a long metal table. The forbidden scroll lay there, sealed shut by 3 rings of dark metal. "When you open it," he said, "the script may shift. Do not be alarmed. It tends to react to the one reading it." Evelyn frowned. "Script doesn't react. It's ink. This script is older than ink." She didn't know what that meant, and she wasn't sure she wanted to. She approached the table carefully. The scroll pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. It almost seemed to breathe. Evelyn inhaled deeply. "If I do this, will you let me go home after?" Lucian didn't immediately answer. His silence stretched. "Finally," he said, "if the prophecy allows it." Evelyn spun toward him. "What does that mean?" His eyes softened, though only by a fraction. "You will not be harmed," he said. "I give you my word." That wasn't an answer, but his expression told her that pressing further would lead nowhere. So Evelyn turned to the scroll. She reached for the first metal ring. As her fingers brushed it, a sharp jolt ran up her arm, like a spark of electricity. She gasped and stepped back. Lucian did not move to help her. He simply watched. "It recognizes you," he said quietly. "It shocked me. It greeted you." "That's not a greeting." He almost smiled, but didn't. With trembling hands, Evelyn reached again. The metal ring warmed under her touch this time, as if adjusting itself. She slid it off. The other 2 rings followed easily, opening with soft clicks. The scroll unfurled slowly, like a creature waking from sleep. Evelyn's breath caught. The script shifted. Letters twisted into new shapes. Words rearranged themselves. Symbols formed and dissolved. As she leaned closer, the ink glowed faintly. "This is impossible," she whispered. Lucian stepped beside her. His presence was cold but strangely reassuring. "Read the first line," he said. Evelyn swallowed. She traced the glowing marks with her eyes. "It says," she paused, hesitating. "It says, when the mortal with the unbroken name descends, the bound king shall meet his fate." Lucian stiffened. Evelyn noticed. "What does that mean?" she asked. Lucian did not answer. She continued translating, her voice growing steadier as the academic part of her mind took over. "The breath of the mortal bride shall awaken the night. Her blood shall choose the throne." Her voice cracked. "Bride." She blinked rapidly and stepped back. No, that can't be right." Lucian's jaw tightened, but he remained silent. Evelyn shook her head again. "This has to be symbolic. An allegory. Ritual language. Something metaphorical. It is literal, Lucian said. She stared at him, stunned. No, she whispered. No, this can't be about me. You have an unbroken name, Lucian said quietly. Heart. A name that has existed without alteration in your mortal line for thousands of years. Evelyn froze. How do you even know my family name history? He held her gaze. I know many things. Her pulse pounded in her ears. Look at the next passage, Lucian said softly. She didn't want to. But something pulled her eyes back to the scroll. The script faded momentarily, and then reappeared with new lines. Evelyn squinted, leaning closer. Her heart dropped. No, she breathed. This is my name. That's my name. In glowing red ink, carved into ancient parchment centuries before her birth. Evelyn Hart. Her full name. Written long before she existed. Her knees weakened. She grabbed the edge of the table for support. How is my name in a scroll older than recorded history? Lucian's voice was low. Because it is prophecy. She stared at him with fear she could no longer hide. And that part about the bride? That's some kind of mistake. Lucian's eyes softened with something like sadness. It is no mistake. Evelyn shook her head. No. I'm not anyone's bride. I'm not part of some ancient prophecy. I'm just a historian. A normal person. You were normal, Lucian said. But the moment you stepped foot in this kingdom, the prophecy stirred. The crystals lit for you. The scroll opened for you. Nothing about this is normal. She backed away from him. Stay away from me. Lucian didn't move, but his expression changed, a flicker of pain, or perhaps exhaustion. I have avoided this prophecy for centuries, he said. I silenced every whisper of it. I sealed the scrolls in the deepest vaults. I did everything to erase it. Why? She whispered. Because it binds me, he answered. To a fate I did not choose. And to a queen I never sought. Their eyes met. For a moment, the chamber felt unbearably still. Then the ground trembled just slightly, but enough to make the shelves rattle. Evelyn grabbed the table instinctively. What was that? Lucian looked toward the ceiling, his face tightening. The cult knows, he said quietly. They have felt your arrival. Who? The Bloodveil cult. They worship the prophecy. They believe your blood is the key to their rise. Evelyn's stomach dropped. So what do they want with me? Lucian turned to her, his voice calm but grave. They want your death. The crystals flickered, soft pulses of red light echoing his words. Evelyn felt a wave of cold fear settle deep in her chest. And what do you want with me? She whispered. Lucian held her gaze, steady and unreadable. To keep you alive, he said softly. Whether I wish to or not. Evelyn stepped back further, breathing hard. She had come here against her will. She had touched a scroll that shouldn't exist. She had found her name in centuries-old prophecy. And now she was tied by fate, by ink, by something far older than she understood, to an immortal king she barely knew. The red crystals pulsed again, faster this time. Almost as if the prophecy itself was waking. Evelyn barely slept that night, not that the Scarlet Dominion had nights or days. Time here flowed strangely, measured only by the pulsing brightness of the red crystals. Sometimes they dimmed, other times they blazed as if something stirred within them. She sat on the hard stone bed in the chamber they had given her, hugging her knees, trying not to cry. Not because she was weak, but because everything around her felt unreal, like she had fallen into someone else's nightmare. She told herself she wasn't trapped. She told herself she wasn't afraid. But both were lies. The air was cold. The crystals outside her room hummed softly, whispering in a language she didn't understand. And somewhere deeper in the Dominion, Lucian was waiting. She didn't want to see him again. She didn't want to hear his calm voice telling her she was part of a prophecy she never chose. And yet, she knew he would come. A soft knock echoed against the metal door. Evelyn tensed. Evelyn Hart, a familiar voice said quietly. May I enter? Lucian. Evelyn exhaled shakily. The door isn't locked. Lucian stepped in, moving with the same quiet grace as before. He wore no crown, No armor, just dark robes that flowed like smoke. His presence filled the small chamber instantly, making the air colder. His crimson eyes softened when he saw her sitting curled up. "You have not eaten," he said gently. "I'm not hungry." "You should eat," he said. "Mortals are fragile." Evelyn shot him a glare. "Thanks for the reminder." He lifted a brow, but didn't respond. It was strange, his presence intimidated her, yet he didn't treat her cruelly. He didn't force. He didn't command. He just existed with this quiet gravity, as though the entire cavern bowed to him without him needing to say a word. Lucian finally stepped closer. "The scroll has more to show you." Evelyn stiffened. "I don't want to see more. What I saw was enough." His voice softened. "The longer you refuse the truth, the stronger the prophecy will push against you." She stood up sharply. "Don't talk about it like it's a thing with a mind. It's ink on paper." "It is magic older than you can imagine," Lucian replied. "Older even than I." Evelyn wrapped her arms around herself. "You said my name shouldn't have been there." He nodded slowly. "Prophecy rarely speaks names. And when it does, the consequences are never small." She swallowed. "Then why me? Why my name?" Lucian's expression shifted, something like conflict flickering across his face. "Because the prophecy does not lie," he said quietly. "I don't accept that," she snapped, her voice trembling. "I don't accept being forced into, whatever this is." Lucian looked at her with such depth in his eyes that she felt her breath hitch. "I never wanted this either," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But fate does not ask what we want." He extended a hand, not touching her, just offering. "Come." The scroll is waking again. The forbidden scroll still lay open on the metal table, glowing faintly. But now there were new lines. Fresh strokes of ink that hadn't been there before, curling across the parchment in blood-red light. Evelyn's stomach tightened. "Did someone write on it?" she asked sharply. "No," Lucian said. "It writes itself." Evelyn walked closer despite herself. Her fingers hovered over the lines, and as she did, the ink flared. It reacted to her. Again. Her throat went dry. She read aloud, voice shaking. "When the mortal heart meets the endless night, the bond shall awaken. The king shall be bound, the bride shall be chosen. Her blood speaks her name. Her name opens the gates." Evelyn backed away, shaking her head rapidly. "No. No, this is wrong. I'm not part of some ritual marriage. I'm not." "It does not say marriage," Lucian said softly. "It says bride," she shot back. "That is very clear." Lucian hesitated, then admitted, in prophecy language, bride does not always mean spouse. It can also mean counterpart. Equal. Someone who completes a ritual binding. "That doesn't make it better," Evelyn snapped. Lucian almost smiled, humorless. "I did not expect it would." Evelyn paced, her hands in her hair. "This is absurd. Why me? Why would my blood speak my name? Why would a scroll thousands of years old care who I am?" Lucian watched her carefully. "Because the prophecy chose you before you were born. That's impossible." "It is truth." Evelyn glared. "Tell me everything." Lucian stepped closer, his voice dropping. "Over 1,000 years ago, the prophecy was first spoken by a seer whose mind was not fully mortal. She foresaw a mortal woman whose bloodline would remain unbroken. A woman who would descend into the dominion and awaken a bond that binds the king. Why would anyone want to bind you?" Evelyn muttered. Lucian's expression darkened. "Because I am immortal. And immortals are better controlled when chained by fate." Evelyn froze. "So I'm supposed to be some kind of anchor," she whispered. "A key. A leash." "Not a leash," Lucian said, his voice low. "A counterpart fate chose for me. A bond that grants power but also vulnerability. To both of us." Her chest tightened. "So if I die, then I die," Lucian finished simply. Evelyn stared at him, horrified. "That's insane." "Prophecy often is." She backed away, shaking. "But there is more," Lucian added quietly. Evelyn did not want to hear more. But the scroll pushed again, ink swirling, forming new letters. She forced herself to look. And the words cut the air like a blade. The bride's blood shall crown or destroy. Her breath awakens the crystal heart. Her life is the kingdom's door. Evelyn whispered, "What does that mean?" Lucian's jaw tightened. "It means the choice of the kingdom's fate lies with you." "I don't want that responsibility," she breathed. "Neither did I," Lucian said softly. "But fate cares little for what we want." Before she could speak, the ground shook violently, sending shelves rattling and scrolls tumbling. The crystals flickered wildly. Lucian's eyes narrowed, sharp and alert. "They are closer than I thought," he said. "Who?" Evelyn gasped. He looked at her with grim certainty. "The cult." Deep in the caverns far beneath the Dominion, a different kind of glow pulsed. Not the red of the crystals, but a sickly, flickering orange, like fire burning without oxygen. Father Marrow knelt before an altar of cracked stone. He wore robes of dark red, stitched with symbols older than the Dominion itself. His face was gaunt, skin stretched tight over sharp bones. His eyes, hollow, sunken, yet burning with fanatic hunger, reflected the firelight. Around him, dozens of cultists bowed low, whispering in a broken chorus. "She has come! She has come! She has come!" Father Marrow lifted his hands. "Rise," he commanded. The cultists rose in unison. "The prophecy stirs," Marrow said, voice trembling with feverish joy. "The crystals sing. The scroll breathes again. And the name." He smiled, a thin, dangerous smile that did not reach his eyes. "The name is written." A cultist stepped forward nervously. "High Priest, does that mean the king has found her?" Marrow's smile widened into something monstrous. "It means fate has brought us the key we have waited centuries for." He lifted the blood-stained chalice on the altar. "The mortal bride." The cultists shuddered. Another cultist asked, "Will the king perform the rite with her?" "If he does," Father Marrow said, "he will gain the prophecy's favor. And if he doesn't?" Marrow leaned forward, eyes gleaming with madness. "Then we take her blood," he whispered. "And the prophecy becomes ours." The cultists bowed again, chanting louder now. "Blood to open. Blood to crown. Blood to awaken. Blood to drown." Marrow raised his arms high. "Find the girl," he commanded. "Bring her to me alive. If she resists, break her spirit. If the king stands in our way, break his throne." The cavern trembled beneath their feet as if the crystals themselves recoiled from his voice. The cultists scattered like shadows, slipping into the cracks of the Dominion. Father Marrow remained at the altar. He touched the chalice reverently. At last, he murmured, "The prophecy breathes." His smile turned sharp. "And soon, it will bleed." Meanwhile, back in the Dominion, Evelyn felt the tremor beneath her feet. She grabbed the edge of the table, heart pounding. "What do they want with me?" she whispered. Lucian's expression hardened. "Your blood can open the crystal heart. It can grant them power no vampire should possess. So they want to kill me." "Yes. And you want to keep me alive. Because if I die, you die." Lucian's voice softened. "I want to keep you alive because I do not wish for your blood to fall into their hands." "Is that all?" Evelyn asked quietly. Lucian hesitated. "I also do not want you to die." Something in his voice, quiet, restrained, made Evelyn's breath hitch. She looked away quickly. Another tremor shook the room. Lucian turned toward the entrance. "They have already breached the lower caverns." Evelyn grabbed his sleeve without thinking. "What do I do?" Lucian looked down at her hand on his sleeve, then back at her face. "You stay with me," he said. "Until we understand the prophecy fully. Until you are safe. And if the cult reaches us." Lucian's crimson eyes hardened like steel. "They won't." The crystals flickered violently, warning, waking, calling. Evelyn felt cold air sweep through the chamber. Something ancient was rising. Something hungry. And the prophecy's first echo had already begun. The Dominion felt different when Evelyn and Lucian walked through its halls. Crystals that once hummed softly now pulsed with a sharp, quick rhythm like a heartbeat growing frantic. The air carried faint whispers, echoes of something ancient stirring awake. Evelyn stayed close to Lucian not because she trusted him, but because everything around her felt ready to swallow her whole. At last they reached a chamber that looked nothing like the others. It was circular, with a wide stone floor engraved with symbols she couldn't recognize. The ceiling arched high above, lined with crystals that glowed brighter than any she'd seen. Evelyn felt the weight of the room before Lucian even spoke. "This is the Hall of Binding." A cold shiver went up her spine. "Why did you bring me here?" "Because the prophecy requires it." Her voice sharpened. "What does that mean, Lucian?" Lucian stepped into the center of the room. When he turned to her, his expression was calm, but something in his eyes betrayed tension. The scroll revealed a part of the prophecy that can only awaken if we perform the bonding ritual. Evelyn froze where she stood. "A ritual? Absolutely not." "You misunderstand," he said softly. "No harm will come to you." Evelyn folded her arms tightly across her chest. "You say that like it's supposed to comfort me." He approached her slowly, hands at his sides, movements deliberately gentle. "The ritual is not physical," he explained. "It is binding by will, by breath, by intention." Evelyn stared at him. "By what?" Lucian took a slow breath, as if preparing himself. "The ritual requires that we stand within the circle, speak the lines of the prophecy aloud, and share a symbolic offering." "What kind of offering?" she asked warily. Lucian hesitated only a second. "A drop of blood." Evelyn backed away instantly. "Absolutely not. No chance. You're insane if you think I'm doing that." Lucian's voice softened. "A single drop. Nothing more. And I offer one as well." "You're a vampire," she said sharply. "You don't get to pretend that's the same thing." Lucian didn't deny it. "Your blood is powerful because the prophecy chose you. My blood is powerful because of what I am. Together, the ritual reveals truth. Without it, we remain blind." Evelyn shook her head. "This is too much. I don't even know you." Lucian looked at her with quiet intensity. "And yet your name is written beside mine in a scroll older than empires." She swallowed, unable to respond. Lucian continued, "The cult is moving faster than expected. And if you die, whether by their hand or by fate, everything falls. Not only for me, but for everyone in this kingdom." Evelyn slowly stepped forward, breathing unevenly. "What happens if we do the ritual?" Lucian met her eyes. "A link forms between us. A tether. You will feel what I feel. Not fully, but enough to sense danger. Enough to understand the prophecy more clearly." Evelyn hesitated. "And what do you get from this bond?" Lucian's expression flickered with something unguarded. "Clarity. Insight. And the strength to protect you." Those words made the room feel smaller, tighter. He extended his hand. "Evelyn. The cult is coming. The prophecy is waking. We have no time left for fear." Her heart thundered in her chest. She didn't trust him. She didn't trust any of this. But she trusted one thing more than their fear: she would rather stand in the circle with him than face whatever hunted her alone. Slowly, painfully, she took his hand. His touch was cold, cold enough to make her gasp. Yet not unpleasant. Lucian led her to the center of the circle. The engraved symbols beneath their feet glowed brighter as they stepped inside. "Ready?" he asked softly. "No," she whispered. "But do it anyway." Lucian lifted his palm and drew a thin line across his skin with a small silver blade. A single drop of dark crimson blood fell onto the stone. The symbols flared. Evelyn's breath hitched. Lucian held out the blade. "Just one drop." Evelyn forced her shaking fingers to take the blade. She cut the smallest line across her fingertip. Her blood fell. And the world exploded into light. The crystals above them blazed like stars bursting. A shock of heat shot through her arm, then her ribs, then her heart. She gasped, stumbling, but Lucian caught her instantly. Her vision blurred. Images flashed, Lucian standing alone on a balcony made of obsidian stone, watching centuries pass. The cult's symbol carved into bone. A throne dripping with shadows. A woman's silhouette reaching toward Lucian before fading into dust. She felt him, his loneliness, his endless years, the weight he carried. And she knew he felt her fears, her grief, the ache she never admitted she carried. Then the light dimmed. Evelyn collapsed to her knees, shaking. Lucian knelt beside her, his cold hand steady on her back. Breathe. You're not dying. It is only the bond settling. She gasped for air. You didn't tell me it would feel like that. I did not know, he said softly. Her eyes shot up. You didn't know. Lucian held her gaze. No ritual has ever been performed with a mortal chosen by this prophecy. I am learning it as you are. Her heart hammered painfully. His voice dropped. But now, we are connected. Evelyn felt it, a faint echo of his emotions in the back of her mind, like a whisper inside her own thoughts. She whispered, "This is insane." "Perhaps," Lucian said. "But it is done." Before she could speak, Lucian suddenly stiffened. His head turned sharply toward the eastern tunnels. "Lucian," she asked. His eyes were burning with crimson fire. "They're here." The Dominion erupted in chaos. Screams echoed through the caverned halls. Crystals flickered wildly, dimming and brightening as if panicking. The stone floor trembled beneath Evelyn's feet. Lucian grabbed her wrist. "Stay behind me." "What's happening?" she shouted over the growing noise. "The cult has breached the inner ring." "How?" Lucian's voice was cold as ice. "They have waited centuries for you. They will break anything to reach you." He pulled Evelyn through winding tunnels, moving quick as a shadow. She could barely keep up, stumbling as the bond pulsed in her ribs, echoing Lucian's growing tension like a heartbeat that wasn't hers. "Stop running," a voice echoed behind them. A sharp crash split the tunnel, stone exploding in a spray of dust. Evelyn screamed as figures in blood-red robes stormed through the cloud, their eyes glowing with fanatic hunger. Lucian shoved her behind him. A cultist lunged, but Lucian moved faster than sight. His hand closed around the cultist's throat, lifting him off the ground effortlessly. "You dare enter my dominion?" Lucian hissed. The cultist choked out, "The girl belongs to the prophecy." Lucian's eyes blazed. "She belongs to no one." He threw the cultist aside with enough force to crack bone. Evelyn swallowed hard. This was the first time she had seen him fight. He was terrifying. The cultists regrouped, chanting under their breath, their fingers glowing with sickly orange energy. "Back!" Lucian ordered her. Evelyn stumbled behind a crystal pillar. She clutched her chest as the bond suddenly surged, her breath catching with a burst of sharp pain. She gasped. "Lucian, something's wrong." He turned, eyes widening. "You feel it?" "Yes," she said, trembling. "It hurts." Lucian cursed under his breath. "The bond is new. If I am harmed, you feel it." Before she could respond, a cultist hurled a blast of corrupted crystal energy toward Lucian. The force struck him hard, sending him slamming into the cavern wall. Evelyn screamed as agony shot through her ribs, not hers, his, but painfully real. "Lucian." He stood slowly, shaking off the shards of broken stone. But Evelyn could feel it, the pain radiating through him, through her. She clenched her fists, teeth grit. "You have tied your fate to the wrong king," one cultist shouted. "His blood is old. Weak. It is yours we want." Lucian's voice was dark and quiet. "Come and try." The fight exploded. Lucian moved like living shadow, tearing through cultists with lethal grace. But there were too many. His strength was vast, but not infinite. And every hit he took sent a pulse of pain straight into Evelyn's body. She pressed her forehead to the crystal pillar, gasping, shaking. "Stop, I can't." She felt Lucian stagger, she felt it inside her skull. She couldn't let him fight alone. Evelyn forced herself to her feet. She spotted a broken shard of crystal on the floor, sharp as glass, glowing faintly. She grabbed it. When a cultist charged toward Lucian's back, Evelyn didn't think, she ran forward and slashed the crystal across his arm. The cultist shrieked as glowing orange blood spilled. Lucian spun toward her, shock flooding through the bond. "Evelyn." "I'm not running," she whispered. Lucian grabbed her wrist and pulled her behind him again. "You cannot fight them. You are mortal. And you're outnumbered," she yelled, chest heaving. Lucian opened his mouth. But then the ground cracked. A deep, thunderous rumble shook the hall. The crystal pillars dimmed. The air grew cold enough to bite skin. A distant voice echoed from the shadows. "Bring her to me." Evelyn froze. Lucian went rigid. "That was," Evelyn whispered. "Father Marrow," Lucian said grimly. "Their high priest." The cultists cheered in ragged voices. "He calls. He calls." The bride must answer. Lucian stepped in front of Evelyn, shielding her with his body. "You will not touch her," he growled. "And you cannot stop fate," a cultist spat. Lucian's voice dropped to an icy whisper. "Watch me try." But just then, the ceiling exploded. Crystal shards rained down like deadly red snow. Evelyn screamed as Lucian wrapped his arms around her, taking the brunt of the impact. Pain ripped through the bond, sharp, crushing, breath-stealing. Lucian fell to one knee, gasping. Evelyn clung to him, shaking. "Lucian, please, get up." He tried. But he was weakened. Too many hits. Too much power drained from defending her. The cultists closed in. One grabbed Evelyn's arm. "No," she screamed, twisting and kicking, but another seized her other arm. They dragged her backward, away from Lucian. "Let go of her," Lucian roared, his voice echoing through the hall like thunder. But the cultist's grip only tightened. Lucian struggled to his feet, blood dripping from his temple. His eyes burned with fury, but his body betrayed him. Every injury he suffered had hit Evelyn too, weakening him even more. "Take her," one cultist commanded. "For the blood veil," another added. "For the prophecy," a third whispered. Lucian staggered forward. But Evelyn was already being pulled into the darkness. "Lucian," she screamed. "Evelyn." His voice cracked with something raw and desperate. The last thing she saw before the shadows swallowed her was Lucian collapsing to the ground, reaching toward her with blooded fingers. And the bond between them pulsed once, violently, like a heart breaking. Darkness swallowed Evelyn whole. The cultists dragged her through narrow tunnels that twisted like veins through the stone. Their fingers dug painfully into her arms. Every time she tried to pull away, their grip tightened hard enough to bruise. She couldn't hear Lucian anymore. She couldn't feel him through the bond. The silence terrified her more than the cultists chanting. The bond should have let her sense something, his pain, his anger, his fear. But it was faint, fading, distant as a dying star. Evelyn stumbled as they yanked her down a sloping passage. "Let go of me," she cried, voice raw. A cultist hissed in her ear, "You should be honored. Your blood will shape the kingdom." Another added, "Just as the prophecy said." Evelyn clenched her teeth. "You're twisting the prophecy. You don't even understand it." "Oh, we understand it better than the king," the cultist said with a cruel laugh. "He fears what we embrace." The tunnel finally opened into a vast underground hall. Thousands of crystals hung from the ceiling like icicles stained with old blood. Their glow was dimmer here, sickly, pulsing in uneven breaths. At the center of the hall, a stone altar stood beneath a towering pillar of blood-red crystal. The pillar stretched all the way to the ceiling, humming with deep, painful vibrations. They dragged Evelyn toward it. Her stomach twisted. Father Marrow stood waiting. Up close, he was worse than she imagined, thin to the point of skeletal, his skin pale and stretched tight, his eyes sunken but burning with insanity. He smiled when he saw her. "The bride of crimson arrives." Evelyn spat, "I'm not your bride." "No," Marrow whispered, touching her cheek with a cold finger. She jerked away. "You are not mine. You are the prophecy's. And the prophecy belongs to whoever claims its power." He gestured to the altar. "Place her there." Evelyn kicked and twisted, but the cultists lifted her easily and pinned her onto the stone. Thick metal cuffs snapped closed around her wrists and ankles. Panic crashed over her. "Stop. Let me go." "Lucian will." "Lucian is weak," Father Marrow cut in calmly. "The bond took more from him than he anticipated. He bleeds. He fails. And soon, he will fall." Evelyn felt pain in her chest, sharp, electric, not her own. Lucian. He was alive. Barely. She swallowed a sob, fighting it back. Father Marrow leaned closer, his voice low and poisonous. "Do you know why your blood is so precious? Why your name is written in a scroll older than kingdoms?" Evelyn glared, refusing to answer. Marrow seemed amused. "Because you are the hinge. The turning point. The choice. The prophecy hinges on your decision, to crown or to destroy." He held up a brittle piece of parchment, stained and decayed at the edges. It was a missing piece of the forbidden scroll. A hidden verse. Evelyn stared, breath frozen. Marrow spoke the verse aloud. "If the bride chooses the night, the king shall rise eternal. If she chooses the dawn, the king shall fall. If she chooses blood, the kingdom shall kneel. And if she chooses herself, all shall burn." Evelyn froze, shock pulsing through her chest. "No," she whispered. "No, that can't be right. That's not what the scroll said." Marrow chuckled. "Lucian never showed you this verse. Did he? He fears it. He fears you." Evelyn swallowed hard. He was trying to protect. He was trying to control. Marrow cut in sharply, his eyes gleaming. "Because if you choose the dawn, he loses everything. He dies. His kingdom crumbles." A cold tremor crawled up Evelyn's spine. "And if I choose blood?" she asked faintly. Marrow's grin widened. "Then we rise." The cultists cheered, chanting her name like a hymn warped beyond recognition. Evelyn felt sick. Marrow leaned close, his voice soft as a blade against skin. "You are the key to all outcomes. With your death, the prophecy bends to us. With your life, we rewrite fate." Then he lifted a cruelly curved dagger made of crystal bone. Evelyn's heart slammed against her ribs. She pulled against the cuffs until her wrists burned. "Lucian," she whispered. "Please." But the bond was too faint. Too weak. Marrow lifted the dagger higher. And Evelyn felt the world tilt beneath her feet. The prophecy was real. Her name was real. And now, her choice would either save or destroy everything. Lucian woke to pain. Every part of him ached, his limbs heavy, his chest burning, his head pounding with a dull rhythm that matched the crystal's dim pulses. He lay half-buried beneath shattered crystal fragments and broken stone. His blood stained the ground beneath him. But none of that mattered. He felt Evelyn's fear through the bond. Every moment it grew more distant. More suffocated. More lost. "No," Lucian croaked, forcing himself to rise. His muscles trembled. The bond pulsed weakly, like a fading signal through storm clouds. "Evelyn, where are you?" Images flickered in his mind, her heartbeat racing, her wrists bound, her voice cracking with terror. Lucian's eyes snapped open, blazing. He pushed himself upright, teeth gritted as pain shot up his side. His body fought him with every step, every breath. But he didn't care. He would tear the Dominion apart if he had to. He would rip the cult from the stone. He would not lose her. Not to fate. Not to prophecy. Not to death. Lucian staggered through the tunnels, leaving a trail of crimson behind him. The cultists he encountered fell quickly, some thrown aside with raw strength, others collapsing under the pressure of his rage-filled presence alone. He didn't need words. He didn't need threats. He was the Crimson King. He was wrath made flesh. And they had taken what prophecy had bound to him. At last, he reached the lowest caverns, the ancient catacombs where no light ever reached. Crystals embedded in the walls flickered weakly as he passed, as if pleading with him. Lucian descended into the dark. Meanwhile, on the altar, Evelyn fought back tears as Father Marrow prepared the ritual. The crystal dagger glowed with pale red light, humming like a living thing. Marrow whispered ancient words under his breath. The cultists joined him, chanting in a slow, rhythmic pulse. Blood to awaken. Blood to open. Blood to crown. Blood to drown. Evelyn pulled against the cuffs until her wrists bled, but it was no use. She was trapped. Helpless. But she wasn't entirely alone. The bond flickered weak, faint, but still alive. Evelyn closed her eyes. "Lucian," she whispered. "Please come." Marrow lifted the dagger. The chanting grew louder. The crystal pillar behind the altar began to glow, cracks of light running up its length. "Your blood is the beginning," Marrow said. "Your death is the key." The dagger descended and met steel. Marrow stumbled back, eyes widening. Lucian stood between them. His sword, dark metal burning with crimson flame, blocked the dagger. Evelyn sobbed with relief, tears spilling down her cheeks. Lucian. Lucian didn't look at her. His eyes were locked onto Marrow's. Father Marrow smiled, calm as ever. Ah. The king rises. Lucian's voice was quiet. Deadly. You touch her again, and I end you. Marrow tilted his head. Do you truly believe you can save her? You are weak. The bond is fresh. Every injury you take shreds her strength. Lucian tightened his grip on the sword. Then I will take none. The catacombs erupted into chaos. Cultists surged forward. Lucian moved like a storm breaking the world apart. His blade cut through the air with shadowy arcs of crimson fire. He fought with precision, fury, and a desperation he had not felt in centuries. And Evelyn felt every heartbeat of his struggle. She could feel his rage, his pain, his determination to reach her. The bond flooded with emotion, overwhelming, fierce. Lucian fought his way to her, breaking her cuffs with a single slash. Evelyn collapsed into his arms, shaking. You came, she whispered. Lucian held her close, cold hands trembling. Of course I came. I will always come. But the moment was shattered as Father Marrow raised his hands to the crystal pillar. Then let prophecy decide, Marrow hissed. The pillar exploded in blinding red light. Lucian shielded Evelyn with his body as the shockwave slammed through the catacombs. Stone cracked. Crystals screamed. And something ancient, something buried deep within the pillar, began to wake. Lucian grabbed Evelyn's hand. Run. They fled as the cavern collapsed behind them, Marrow's laughter echoing in the roaring dark. But the prophecy had already changed. And the awakening had only just begun. The world shook as Lucian and Evelyn ran through the collapsing cavern. The red crystals overhead screamed with a sound that was not human, splintering into shards that fell like raining knives. Dust billowed behind them, thick enough to choke. Evelyn stumbled, and Lucian caught her before she hit the ground. Keep moving, he said, voice low, steady. But she could hear the strain beneath it. The bond pulsed violently between them, raw, frantic, unstable. Every shake of the earth made her heart pound in panic. Every flicker of pain in Lucian's body hit her like a blow. Something ancient was waking behind them. Something the crystals themselves feared. Evelyn glanced over her shoulder and froze. From the wreckage of the shattered crystal pillar, hands rose, pale and enormous, clawed like bone forged in nightmares. Then a massive shape began to drag itself free, shaking off centuries of crystal dust. Lucian saw it too, eyes narrowing. Marrow is trying to awaken the first sire. First, what? Evelyn whispered breathlessly. Lucian didn't slow. The first of our kind. The one whose bloodline created all vampires. If he rises, the cult will control him and the world will drown in shadow. Evelyn's mouth dried. Behind them, Father Marrow's voice rose in triumphant chant as the monstrous shape gathered strength. The earth cracked. The cavern trembled. The first sire roared. Lucian stopped abruptly, turning to face her. His hands grasped her shoulders, eyes locking onto hers with fierce urgency. Evelyn. You must listen to me. No, she choked. Lucian, don't speak like this. There is no time. His voice was steady, but his eyes, his ancient, unbreakable eyes, shook. The prophecy gives you 3 choices. 3 paths that only you can walk. I don't want choices, she whispered, voice trembling. I want you safe. Lucian brushed a gentle thumb across her cheek. I was never meant to be safe. Behind him, the cult chanted louder. The ground split further. A massive claw scratched the stone floor, sending sparks into the air. Listen, Lucian urged. The hidden verse Marrow revealed, it's true. You can choose the dawn, and I will fall. The night, and I will remain immortal, bound to you. Or, he paused. Or you can choose yourself and everything burns. Evelyn felt her heart crush inside her chest. Lucian, tears spilled before she could stop them. Why didn't you tell me? Because I did not want to burden you with the weight of my fate, he said, voice quiet. Or with the lives of thousands who depend on me. I wanted you to be free. But I'm not free, she whispered, touching her chest. The prophecy already binds me. He closed his eyes. Yes. It binds us both. The bond flared, white-hot, desperate, undeniable. Lucian leaned forward, forehead touching hers. The moment was fragile, like thin glass between shaking hands. Evelyn, he whispered, what do you want? She swallowed hard. I want you to live. Then you must choose the night, he murmured. And become what I am. Evelyn's breath hitched. Immortality. Losing her humanity. Becoming queen of a kingdom that terrified her. Or she could choose dawn. End the prophecy. End him. Lucian took her trembling hands in his cold ones. Whatever you choose, I will not fight you. I have lived long enough to accept fate. The roar of the first sire made the ground shake like thunder. She met Lucian's gaze. And what if I choose myself? Lucian exhaled slowly. Then the dominion collapses. The first sire awakens fully. The world above falls. And you? He looked away. You survive alone. Evelyn felt the weight of the prophecy crushing her. She looked at Lucian, his torn clothes, bleeding wounds, trembling hands. He had fought for her until his body could barely stand. He had shielded her from falling crystal. He had crossed death itself to reach her. And now he was asking her to decide his fate. But before she could speak, Father Marrow stepped forward from the smoke, his bleeding robes glowing in the red crystal light. The choice is already set in motion, he screamed. Her blood belongs to the prophecy. Her future belongs to us. He lifted the crystal dagger again, but Lucian's sword flashed in the dark, then steel met bone with a deafening crack. Marrow stumbled back, hissing like an animal. You cannot stop the first sire, Marrow shrieked. Even now, he awakens. Lucian positioned himself in front of Evelyn, ready to shield her. But Evelyn stepped forward, voice steady despite her shaking. No, she said. I decide. The cavern fell silent. The cultists froze. Even the first sire paused, massive head turning toward her, eyes glowing with ancient hunger. Lucian whispered her name, but she didn't turn. She walked toward the edge of the cracked stone floor, toward the glowing fractures that pulsed like open veins. Evelyn felt the prophecy flood her mind in a rush of visions, Lucian dying in her arms, Lucian rising beside her as king, the dominion burning around her. She felt the future stretching open like 1,000 branching paths. She reached her hand toward Lucian. And the world held its breath. I choose. The entire cavern erupted in blinding red light. Her choice was made. The light faded slowly. When Evelyn opened her eyes, the cavern was silent. The cultists lay unconscious on the ground. The first sire, half emerged from the crystal, had gone still, his massive form frozen as if commanded by unseen chains. Lucian stood before her, frozen in shock. Evelyn's hand glowed with a deep, crimson light that pulsed like a heartbeat. She had chosen. She had chosen him. Lucian took a step toward her, disbelief in his eyes. Evelyn, you chose the night. Evelyn nodded, voice soft but firm. I chose you, Lucian. As soon as she spoke, the prophecy surged through her veins like molten fire. She gasped, falling to her knees. Lucian caught her immediately, holding her as she trembled violently. What's happening? She whispered, gripping his coat. His expression was pained. Your transformation has begun. Her vision blurred. The crystals around them brightened, reacting to her awakening. Their light shaped itself into patterns, vampiric sigils, ancient marks of royalty. Marrow, half conscious, lifted his head and stared with horror. No, no, this was not the prophecy I wanted. Evelyn's heartbeat slowed. Her lungs burned for breath. Lucian stroked her hair, voice gentle. Breathe. I'm here. It hurts, she gasped out. I know. His eyes softened with a tenderness few had ever seen. I went through it too. Her bones felt like they were being reforged. Her senses expanded, she could hear every crack in the stone, every drip of water, every heartbeat in the cavern. The crystals whispered her name. Evelyn Hart. The Crimson Queen. Lucian lifted her chin. Look at me. She did. He pressed his wrist to her lips. This will anchor you, he said softly. Evelyn hesitated. Then she drank. His blood was cold, powerful, ancient. It rushed through her body, merging with the prophecy's flame. Her vision went white. The pain turned into overwhelming clarity. Lucian's voice reached her through the haze. Evelyn. When she opened her eyes again, the world was sharper. Clearer. Darker. Lucian looked into her changed eyes, now glowing with crimson fire, and bowed his head. My queen, he whispered. Evelyn lifted him gently, her voice steady. Stand with me. He rose. Behind them, the first sire slowly bowed its massive head, subdued by her power. Father Marrow screamed, no. She was meant for us. The kingdom was meant for the cult. Evelyn turned, eyes cold. You twisted the prophecy. You tried to steal my life. Lucian stepped forward. What do you wish done with him? She looked at Marrow, shaking, blooded, terrified. Then she spoke softly, without emotion. End him. Lucian obeyed. Marrow's scream echoed once, then faded. Evelyn didn't flinch. The cavern began to glow brighter, crystals humming in harmony. The prophecy coursed through them, lighting up the Dominion like a rebirth. Lucian touched Evelyn's hand. What now? Evelyn stepped toward the glowing chamber, her voice echoing with power. Now, she said, the Scarlet Dominion rises again. As they walked together, side by side, the crystals followed them like living stars. Evelyn was no longer the historian dragged underground. No longer the girl deciphering ancient scrolls. No longer the mortal bound by fear. She was the Crimson Queen. And by her side, the immortal king she had chosen. The prophecy was complete. But their reign had only just begun. If you want to see what happens next in this dark world of prophecy, blood, and fate, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. Trust me, you don't want to miss the next chapter.